Hi everybody, I haven't done a video for absolutely ages. I thought I'd do you a quick one on bottle cutting. I bought this bottle cutter off of Wish, which works really well. You've got your cutting focus, you've got your cutting tip there, and all the rollers you can move to get the bottle running nice. This is an adjuster you can move backwards and forwards to hold the bottle. And now it was meant to come with a little plastic knob that went in there. You could fit on any of those holes to hold the neck if you were cutting the other end of the bottle, but they didn't seem to come with that. The kit came with these two rubbers, a Phillips screwdriver to undo the screws, which is pretty useless considering it doesn't come with a spanner to go on the nut that's on the back. Now I've done about, I'll show you, I've probably done about 100 cuts. I should have done you loads of videos because I've been building, you know, I'm so short of space. I built that shed at the bottom of the garden. I don't know if you could have seen in the background of my other videos. And there was a crappy old shed there, so I knocked it down and built that new one. I might open that up and do you a video of that. I should have done a build video of that really, but I've cut all these ends. Now if you can see there, that is the bottle of a cider bottle, really quite thick. The thicker bottles cut better. They take, now I'm doing it with boiling water and cold water, and these crack on the second heating with the boiling water. You get a really good cut. See a lot of bottles, you know, I think I've watched a video and then said prepare to fail, because it doesn't always work. I think sometimes on the thinner glass, the really boiling water, you've got to have boiling water. It doesn't, as soon as it goes off the boil, it doesn't want to work at all. But the shock of the boiling water sometimes can cause random cracking. Now the square bottles, I'll just show you the one I've cut there. I couldn't work out how to do it on the cutter I got off of Wish. You can set the wheels up so it will do square bottles, but I found it's easier to do. I'll show you the jig. Well, I want to make a tree out of the end of these bottles. Gosh, that's stuck back together. That's good to see that. The thin beer bottles, ever so hard to do. You don't need the water so hot for those. These are going to be the leaves on the tree. I'm going to put LED lights in the back of these bottles, so I'm not too bothered the ones that haven't cut properly. Now these brown beer bottles, I was going to say they cut perfectly, but that one there didn't. You can preheat that and get that off again, but I'm not too worried because I'm going to lock all these together and put lights behind them. Let's go back in. So I've done quite a few cuts, as you can see. It bloody hurts your back. I found the best way of doing it is to have a big saucepan sitting on the hob, boiling away, so you've got hot water, and then as you run the hot water on the bottle and you rotate it, you do it over a saucepan, so you can put that water back in the saucepan, and then with your cold water, I do it off the tap over a bucket, so I'm saving that water and that can go back on the garden. Now these square bottles, there is a guy on YouTube who take the cutting tip off of there. He uses a normal glass cutter with a handle, but I found this tip, because it's got a hole in, I just screw that onto there. I use one of these screws and you line it up to wherever you want to cut. Now on the square bottles, there's one guy on YouTube who says it doesn't matter how deep your cut is, you just need one score. I think it does matter. Your score has got to be as deep as you can. But what is imperative, you can't deviate off of that line at all, because that causes the fracturing all over the place. So, you know, you really got to force that cutting tip. If this will focus, you can see there's a tiny little, I'll get my finger in there, there's a tiny little cutting wheel on the end of there. And you've got to make sure that this is clamped down to your work surface. And the trouble with the bottles is, you see they've got like that stippling on the bottom. And it makes it really hard to turn the bottle. So this time I only needed, my bit of wood wasn't quite big enough. It was only a couple of mil. So I clamped it down onto this cardboard and rotated the bottle actually on the work surface, because it moves so easily. And you can score it up and down several times. You've got to keep the pressure on. It's really hard to get around the corners. And see, this one fractured. I probably didn't cut it enough on the corner. Come on, focusing. And now this bottle here, we got some sea glass on the beach, and we filled the glass up with sea glass. And I've got these little hinges which I hot melt glue on, and then you can glue the hinge back on, so you've got a complete bottle. Now, we've done this for one of my missus's friends, and they filled it with glass. It looked so good. The first visitor she had in her new house rushed over to pick the bottle up, and she picked it up by the lid, just enough that there's quite a weight in there when it's full of glass. The hinge came off and the glass bottle fell on the floor, smashed. Dang, it took me 4 bottles to get a cut. And that was using those sapphire gin bottles. This one was a slightly thicker glass, it cut better, but I didn't quite score it enough. And I sanded the end down. I'm just about to hot melt the hinge on. And this is a replacement for her. I've done about 4 square bottles with this method, and each one I did 1 score line, and they fractured. The bottle stayed all right, but the lid fractured. It's imperative you get a massive deep cut score on the corners, and try and do it with the water slightly off the boil first. So you must run the water around, rotating the bottle for about 30 seconds, and then run your tap cold, or have some cold water that you've got in the fridge, and then pour it around, rotating it as even as possible. And you can see the fracture as it starts to go around. If you get anywhere the crack goes off up the top, just stop and throw that one away. It's not worth it, not worth trying, unless you want to use the bottom half of the bottle. Now, I had one that fractured and it went down, so I cut the bottle lower so it wasn't wasted. But it's a good source for ornaments and stuff like that. It doesn't cost you anything, apart from the cutter, of course. But I think I've done 100 cuts. And it's still good to go. Anyway, I'm just going to glue that on. I tried super gluing the little hinges on the glass. They just come straight back off again. The hot melt is okay, but it won't take a lot of stress. I guess if you really want to make sure the hinge was on properly, you could epoxy it on. But the trouble you've got is the hinge is flat and the bottle is slightly curved. And the best thing about the hot melt is, because it comes out in such a great big blob, see, this bottle has got a recess in it, so I'm going to fill that recess, put a good bit of hot melt glue on there, it will fill that. That's the only good thing about hot melt, it goes all over the shop. But that's a quick intro to glass bottle cutting. What I'd do is, when I've got another load of bottles and I'm doing a cut with the glass cutter, I'll do you a video of that, but there's loads of those videos on YouTube. Anyway, Sorry I haven't done any videos lately. Been too busy working, doing the shed, slate cutting. Maybe I'll do a video on that if anyone's interested. But back in action. See you later guys, bye.